Hi guys, so today I wanted to come to you with a list of my top 10 non-Star Wars board games. And so this is a little difficult for me because I do spend so much time playing Star Wars games specifically, but I do occasionally like to play regular board games. And on top of that, some of my favorite board games are Star Wars based board games like Rebellion, or have you ever played Star Wars Epic Duels? Very, very cool game. But I could not include those on this list, so I'm going to give you my top 10. Now, I have not played as many board games as a lot of my friends have, so my list is probably going to feel incomplete to some of you heavier board gamers, but I'm just going based off of the games that I've played. And before I get started, I want to also give you some of my criteria. You see, for me, I don't like board games that are Euro, usually very Euro. In some cases I'm okay with it. Some cases I actually like a few Euro games, but I'm more of an Ameritrash type of gamer. I want a board game that is fun while you're playing, fun while you're starting the game, fun in the middle of the game, and fun at the end of the game. I want a game that I can lose and have a blast while playing, and I don't really care if I win or lose. And I want a game that, you know, there's something cool going on. And before I get into the top 10, I use Rebellion as a classic example of this game because you're telling a story. And you're doing amazing things, and you're going to actually talk about, like, after you finish a good game of Rebellion, actually most games of Rebellion, you're going to be talking to the person that you played against later on, maybe the next day, maybe next week, like, hey man, do you remember that game when I blew up 2 Death Stars in the same game? Oh yeah, but I still got you. Like, yeah, it looked like you were going to win, you know. That's one of the things that makes a great game to me. I want to have an awesome experience while playing, and I want it to be fun, and I don't want it to be where I'm just playing for myself, ignoring everybody else, and we're all just seeing who does the best, and then, oh, the game is over, and now let's add up all victory points and see who won. You know, those type of games don't really do it for me because it's like, well, I could just be playing solo. So anyway, with that said, let's jump into my list. Coming in at number 10 is a classic. It is the Settlers of Catan. So this is a game, one of the oldest board games that's around. For a lot of people, it's one of the first games they've played that was a little heavier, like more heavier than Monopoly. This is one of the, like, very much a gateway game, and I actually didn't play it until much later in my gaming career, and I was like, you know what, it's a long time, you know, about time that I finally played this, and I actually really liked it. It does promote a lot of player trading, a lot of social interaction, blocking other people, trying to get around other people, so I really like the fact that I don't usually like games that have little wooden components to them because that's usually a sign of a Euro game, but this one I don't mind the little wooden components in it because you're really interacting with one another, and everything that you do affects what other people do. It is a little bit random, and I do like a little bit of randomness in my games. I don't meticulously plan out everything in a lot of the board games that I enjoy, and so having there be just that, oh, well, you know, you just happen to roll 12, and then he rolled 12, and they rolled 12, and so now you were, you know, you went from 0 to hero in like 3 turns. And so some people hate that, but I think that's fun. And so that's one of the things that makes an enjoyable gaming experience, because even if I don't win, maybe I surprised everybody, or maybe I blocked this person off of having the longest road, and just some really fun things can happen and have happened when I've played Settlers of Catan, so I definitely enjoy that. And it's coming in at number 10. Coming in at number 9 is Risk 2210. So Risk 2210 was one of the first board games I played outside of the classic, you know, Candyland, Monopoly stuff. I actually played Risk 2210 coming back from Iraq. I was in Kuwait, and we were kind of at like a staging area to redeploy back to the United States, and some guys pulled out a copy of Risk 2210 and said, hey, you know, and this was a night after we were off shift and we were kind of just had some downtime, and said, do you want to play this? And I was invited to play a game. I'm like, okay, well, I've played regular Risk before. How different can it be? And it was very different, but still felt like Risk. You know, you had heroes, you had different types of cards than just the regular cards you would get. You had currency you could spend, you had to pick which hero you wanted. You also had underwater territories, and you could invade the moon. So while I love lots of games like Risk, this is the only Risk option I'm selecting on this list because for one, it has a special place in my heart because I've played it a lot of times with a lot of friends, and it takes me back to a whole different world that I was in. But at the same time, it was kind of a gateway game for me because it was the first time I've gotten into like greater concepts from a similar board game design, because I had played regular Risk, and now here was the first time I played a different type of Risk. I'm like, oh, they went in different directions with it. Oh, that's pretty cool. So it kind of opened my eyes up a little bit. So Risk 2210, I don't play it much anymore, but definitely one of my favorites. Number 8 is Twilight Imperium. So Twilight Imperium is one of those games that you really need to set aside a whole day to play if you have, you know, like 4, 5, or 6 people or even more. It's such a tremendous game, and it's so epic in its feel. And it's almost a cop-out because I said non-Star Wars games, but if you've ever played Twilight Imperium, it becomes pretty clear that it's based off of Star Wars. It's just using different stuff. It's like it's got the feel of Star Wars, and you know, so it feels very Star Wars-ish, but it's not the Star Wars license. It's all different aliens and in a galaxy, and they're all trying to coordinate and, you know, and do things amongst themselves. This is a 4X game, and you can pretty much do just about whatever you want in this game. And one of the things I love about Twilight Imperium is that it's so fun just doing whatever you want, as long as you don't get caught up in winning. I've played Twilight Imperium only twice, and it's still made my list. The first time I played, I won. I went straight for a victory approach. And then the second time, because, now granted, only playing twice is still a big deal, because you're talking, like, that's probably like 20 hours of gameplay. Because it's a long, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it can be very long. The last time I played, we had 6 players, and we had to set aside the whole day, and we had to take breaks for meals where we'd all stop, go downstairs, and eat, and come back up. And I knew very quickly I wasn't going to win, or I probably wasn't going to win in the second game, and I decided, well, I can just do cool stuff anyway. So they have this ship in this game, and it's very much like a Death Star, and I just built a couple of them, and I just decided I was going to go on a warpath through the galaxy, and I just, you know, cut a path of terror, just destroying everything in the way. So while I didn't win, it didn't matter, because I did something very, very fun, and it's pretty hard to build 2 Death Stars. I think they're called War Suns, as a matter of fact. I'm trying to jog my memory, but it's just really fun to be able to do all kinds of different things, and everybody can have different objectives. And so, you know, you're going to have almost like how video games have an achievement system. You know, like here's a game that has certain things that you definitely want to achieve, and if you can achieve those, you get a sense of accomplishment even if you lose. So there's that. There's a lot of social interaction. There's diplomacy. There's a lot of table talk. Hey, can I go through your area? I promise I won't attack you. I'm just trying to get here. Or hey, let's team up and attack this person. And so it's just a blast if you can set the time to play it. And so I love Twilight Imperium, and I might be able to play it at Dice Tower Con. I might manage something like that this coming weekend, so that would be fun. So that was number 8, Twilight Imperium. Number 7 is another kind of a classic. This is called Dominion, and it's the first deck builder I have ever played, and it was very much what I call my gateway game, because when I got into tabletop gaming in a serious capacity, it first started with X-Wing. X-Wing was, I mentioned Risk earlier. I had played Risk, but then I took a big break and was all back into video gaming. So when I started getting away from being exclusively a video gamer, it was with X-Wing. I found X-Wing. I said, this is amazing, and I played only X-Wing. That was the only game that I would play. And so a friend of mine who I met through playing X-Wing said, like, hey, do you want to try something else? And I'm like, I wanted to be polite, because like inside I was like, no, I just want to play X-Wing. And so he's like, well, let me show you Dominion. And I'm like, okay, that sounds familiar. I've heard of that before. And I played it, and I loved it. And it was the first deck builder I had ever played. So I didn't even know what a deck builder was. And so here's this game where I'm like, oh, I remember I used to play Magic when I was a teenager, and you know, and part of the fun of Magic was, you know, trying to craft a deck. But here's a game that's the whole mechanic of the game is crafting a deck, and you keep reshuffling it and using it over and over again. And every time you add cards to it, you make it better and better and better. And I'm like, that's really fun. And And so, and the funny thing is, my friend and I, we tied when playing Dominion, and so we scheduled a rematch. You know, the following week we tied again. We kept playing. I'd say about 7 or 8 times in a row over the course of like 6 months. We tied for points every single time. So I have a lot of fun memories, and it got to the point where we're like, all right, I'm really going to try to beat you this time. And we, after we counted up all the victory points at the end, we're like, it was a tie again, and our jaws would hit the floor over and over and over again. He actually eventually broke the tie. I think it took about 8 or 9 games before he broke the tie. But yeah, so Dominion is actually it's a lot of fun. It's kind of the grandfather of all deck builders, and it does it very, very well. And there's so many expansions for it. It's got a ton of replayability. Some people get annoyed with it because they've played it so long, because it's been out there for a long time. Me, having gotten into board gaming and tabletop gaming later than a lot of my friends, I'm not as exhausted on Dominion, so I'm usually fine to play it because I have a good time playing it. So that's why I'm like, I told you my list is probably gonna be different than a lot of other people's lists, but Dominion is very important to me. I like Dominion a lot, and I don't play it so much anymore, but it's the game that made me like deck builders, and it's the game that opened my eyes to like, okay, well, I like this different game, so let me try other different games too. And I went from there, and then I played other games that I did like and other games that I didn't like, and then I started buying more and more games, and now I've got a pretty good amount of games. Not too many, but I have a pretty good amount. Yeah, so that's number 7, Dominion. Number 6 is the game I probably play the most outside of Star Wars games. It's definitely the game I play the most with my kids, and that is, you're gonna laugh, but it's Zombicide, specifically Zombicide Black Plague. So I really, really like miniatures. I like for all of my board games to have miniatures if possible. It's just a big plus for me. It's not required absolutely, but it really, really helps. And so one of the things that originally drew me to the first Zombicide was how many miniatures came with it, and I was starting to get into painting miniatures a little bit, and I was figuring, well, maybe I can, this looks really, I had seen people play it one time, and I'm like, this looks kind of cool, and then also it's cooperative, so it's really easy to teach new players, because even if they don't know what's going on, it's cooperative, so like everybody's working together. And I came to fall in love with the regular Zombicide, but there were a few little problems with it, like some of the rules were a little wonky. And when they came out with Zombicide Black Plague, I was on the fence with it. I'm like, I'm not sure if I want like a whole different version of Zombicide that's not compatible with the first one. But I backed it on Kickstarter, it showed up, and I was blown away. First off, it's medieval, and it's fantasy themed, so you've got magic, you've got bows and arrows, swords, axes, enchanted things, you've got all kinds of magic and cool castles and stuff, and the miniatures are great, but it fixes so many problems. Every problem I had with the first Zombicide, Black Plague fixed, and they just finished another Kickstarter for the Green Horde, and that's got a lot of cool stuff coming. There's actually, they're doing a Princess Leia Survivor, so that's going to be pretty cool. But I've dumped a lot of money into the plethora of Zombicide games that are out there right now, and the Black Plague series is just really, really good, and my kids love it. When I play with them, I usually kind of go a little bit simpler on the rules, and I kind of do a custom scenario that's going to be a little bit easier, because usually I want us to win. Although one time, I think the first or second time we played, we did all lose, and there were some tears shed, so now I take it a little bit easier. But the kids love it, and the thing is, it's also very, the system is, the AI system it uses is very cool, very simple, easy enough for one person to run. Everybody else, you can kind of guide their decisions. So, my 5-year-old, I can be like, okay, I think you should go here. Does that sound good? And let him to nod. But I've done other things too. Like I've put miniatures from other games. Like I took the Ninja Turtles. I have 4 hero clicks that I rebased and put on regular stands, and and I put the Ninja Turtles in 4 different rooms, and we had to go. Today's mission tonight, guys, is we have to go rescue the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then once you rescue one, they'll fight for us. And then another time, the kids had some toys from this game called Plants vs. Zombies, and they had all these little plants, and they were about the same size as the miniatures, and so they wanted to put those on the game board too, and have Plants vs. Zombicide. And so, I was like, okay, it's an open-ended enough system that you can easily do custom games and homebrews, and it's so much fun with the kids. I can see some people thinking, well, zombies aren't really appropriate for children, but they're not. It's not really graphic and gruesome. It's just you know, they're just walking around. They're like cartoony zombies almost. I mean, if you paint them and you can put blood on them, some of them are a little bit graphic if you get really up close and a little bit hideous, but there's nothing really graphic or intense about making a custom game, because if you're not reading a scenario or reading gory details out of the book, if you're just doing a custom homebrew scenario, it's just little plastic pieces moving around the board, and you're like, oh, don't let them get you, you know. So I think it's fantastic. I play it a ton with my kids. I'm just signed up for the next Green Horde, and so probably about this time next year I'll have a whole big extra bag full of a couple boxes full of Zombicide extra stuff, and it's just gonna be nuts. So that was number 6, Zombicide Black Plague. Coming in at number 5 is a game similar to Risk, and I have only actually played this game once, but I really liked it an awful lot, and it jumped up on my list, and it's almost a shame to have a game that this high that I've only played once. But it's called Cthulhu Wars, and I love this game. It's basically Risk with a whole different set of mechanics going on. For one, whichever player you are, you're gonna have a completely unique way that you play and set of goals. There's a ton of expansions and extra content for this, and I just kind of played with the base set, but just the base set alone has, you know, so much going on, and what I love about Cthulhu Wars is it's fun. I played a 3-player game, and it didn't take as long as a game of Risk can typically take, because Risk can go on for like 4, 5, 6 hours. Cthulhu Wars we played in about an hour and a half for a 3-player game, and that was also a learning game. But the reason I think this is so much fun is because you're able to perform complex combos or do something really cool in the game even if you don't win. And when we played, all of us have got to kind of demonstrate our signature playstyle, or, you know, pull off a wicked combo, or, you know, demonstrate how much of a big and scary monster we were in some fashion, without actually necessarily having to win as a result of it. So it still gave us that feeling of, oh, I'm going to do something really cool in this game, and having fun. And it's got miniatures. It's got giant miniatures, like normal miniatures like this big. It's got like miniatures that are like this big, and like this big. So it's got like mammoth miniatures, and they look so good too. Even unpainted, they look good. So yeah, like Cthulhu Wars is amazing, and I don't actually own it. A lot of the games that are on my list I don't own because I know other people who have, so I'll just go play it at their house. I've only got so much room, and I keep buying Armada stuff and X-Wing stuff, and I'm gonna run out of room if I keep buying lots and lots more board games. So I've already got a couple. I've got like 5 or 6 on Kickstarter that are coming in over the next 12 months or so. So I gotta kind of take it easy. But yes, so that's number 5, Cthulhu Wars. Number 4 was a game I got on Kickstarter that I really liked, and I didn't expect to like. I did not expect to like it at all, and it's Conan. Conan is just like a one versus many game that tends to be pretty difficult to enjoy, because in a one versus, if you played Imperial Assault, for example, it's a one versus many game, and whereas one player will take on the role of like the Overlord, and that's specifically what they call it in Conan, or in Imperial Assault it's the Imperial player. And then everybody else plays as the rebels. So in Conan, one player is the Overlord, everybody else plays as the heroes, and it's basically you have to play as the Overlord. I didn't expect to like that because like I don't always want to be the Overlord. I was hoping that Conan, like when I was backing it on Kickstarter, I was hoping that it was going to be something where I like, oh well, I don't want to have to play as the Overlord. Let's just all be heroes and go up against maybe an AI or something like that. But the thing is, I've already got like Zombicide for that, so it was kind of like I was unsure what I really wanted. But the miniatures looked great, and that's one of the best things about Conan is the art on the box, the art inside the box, the art on all the cards, the art of the miniatures themselves look great. The game board, the game boards, because there's multiple game boards and game maps are like some of the best I've ever seen. The art for Conan is absolutely stupendous. Now it was long overdue too, because I think there was it was like over a year delayed on Kickstarter due to numerous issues. So I was, a lot of people were kind of worried, but like I was just so glad for it to show up because, actually getting it, the components were great. Some of the miniatures seemed like they were done in a second wave, and so they had like a different plastic to them. I haven't painted any of mine yet, and maybe someday I will, but like I'm not under an immediate threat to play Conan, or to paint Conan rather. Because you can play it just fine with what you've already got, because it's got little rings and bases that you can put them in, so you can still tell what's what at a glance. But what I really like about this game is when I was playing it, I found it was fun to be the Overlord. And that's never happened to me before. I hate being the Imperial player in Imperial Assault, because for a number of reasons, it almost seems like I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons and I am the dungeon master and I have to kill all the players. And like, that's not fun. You want to have a good story. But in this one, I do want to kill all the heroes. And it's hard for me to explain just how much fun it is to play as the Overlord, but it's got a very unique system of managing your resources. Oh, I can do this, or I can do that, or, and the heroes have a similar system. So playing as the Overlord is very similar mechanics to how playing as the heroes works. But you have so much more in play, so you can control, multiple units. And it's just, between the art, I think it's just a perfect combination of great mechanics, cool story that goes into the scenarios that you can play, great, beautiful board, great miniatures, great components, and just an overall really good time. I absolutely love Conan. It's a game I don't get to play enough, and I'm hoping to play that at Dice Tower as well. So like some of these I play a lot. Like Zombicide, I'm probably not gonna bring that to Dice Tower. I play it all the time, but it's on my list so high, right? But this is one I don't get to play as much, and so it's like one of those games that I definitely hope I get to play at Dice Tower. So that's Conan at number 4. Number 3 is a game that was my favorite for a while and kind of fell down on the list a little bit due to it being a little difficult for me to teach other players to play. So I've really not been able to play it in over a year. And I think it's closer to 2 years now since I've played this game. And I love the game, but for some reason I have a hard time teaching it. And I think part of that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. This game is called Yoshiyama. Now, I love this game. It is a battle royale, effectively, where you're playing as these Japanese warriors, and they each get a deck of cards, and they each have, you pick your warrior, and the warrior has a custom ability. You pick a kami spirit, like a tortoise or a dragon, and then you choose, like, all right, I'm going to be this guy, and he's going to have the dragon spirit, and you shuffle them together, and then that becomes your deck. And it's also your life total, and it's the attacks that you can make, and certain heroes synergize better with certain kami, and so there's different combinations. There's a lot of replayability. I backed this on Kickstarter, and I got a bunch of extra expansions and some Kickstarter exclusive stuff. So I've got extra heroes, I've got extra kami, I've got a lot of different combinations of stuff, and it also plays on a hex board. And one of the coolest things about this is when you play a card, every attack that you can do, every card attack that you do, hits a certain number of hexes, but it shows a pattern. So I might, be right here, and I do a thing that hits all the enemies in front of me in a line, or I might do one that hits, like forks out like left and right, or I might do one that hits all the enemies around me in a circle. And it's a multiplayer game, so you can have like a 4-player free-for-all, and you're going down there and like, boom, I just hit everybody. So it's cool. It does have player elimination, but it mitigates the negative part of player elimination by when you're knocked out, you come back, you're reborn, you flip your card over, you're now even stronger. Now you can be killed again and then you'll die, but you come back, it's kind of like a zombie version of yourself. They call it reborn, or re-something. But you come back and you're even stronger, so now you can kind of play Kingmaker. So you might get vengeance against who killed you. And so, it's just a very fun concept of a lot of chaos going on. You can play it as teams, and it works pretty well as teams, because now you have to be careful that your big area attacks don't hit your teammate. So a different level of strategy comes into it that way. And it's just a really fun game, and it just appeals to what I really like. I mentioned Star Wars Epic Duels earlier in the video, and what I think I loved about that was a free-for-all game. It was just a fun game. Like, oh, pick Darth Maul, he's got all these cards, blah, blah, pick Mace Windu, everybody versus everybody, and they could be from different time periods, and it was just, you know what, let's just do a big battle and have some fun. And that's what this feels like to me, but it's got even more, because you're not just picking a character, you're also picking their kami, or their magic that they're going to use, you know. And you also have a tome of spells that kind of go along with each character. They're not necessarily always spells, but they're like buffs or upgrades or skills that go along with each character. There's a lot going on in this game, and it's just a little bit... It's not a heavy game, but it's just heavy enough that makes it difficult for me to teach it. I think if I play it more, I'll have an easier time teaching it to people, because I just don't think I found the right approach, because there's so many different things to explain, and they all interlock with each other. I find a hard time finding the place to start. And so I'm going to probably work on that. I may bring this to Dice Tower, and hopefully I'll run across somebody else who's played it before, and maybe after playing a couple more games I can get it. But I've taught a few people, and I've had fantastic games with this, but I've had other times where some people weren't as familiar with some of these, you know, types of games, and were standing there clueless, and then I was stumbling. I'm like, you know what, all right, forget it, let's not. It's just, I'm not going to be able to teach this to you. And so I haven't played it since then. So I've had a hard time teaching this game, but Yoshiyama is my number 3 game. Number 2 is one of my favorite types of games, and it's called The Resistance. So The Resistance is a super, super fun game of basically, it's a social game. You're trying to guess who are the spies, and who, you know, and trying to confirm who is the Resistance. It's hidden roles. You know, nobody knows who's really the spy. The spies know who the other spies are, but the Resistance doesn't know who the spies are, and so they're trying to, like, it's similar in a vein to like games like Werewolf or Mafia, but it doesn't have player elimination. Well, it kind of can. If you can figure out that one person's a spy, then nobody's going to listen to them for the rest of the game. But they're not out of it. And it plays much faster. It plays like in 20 minutes. So it's just a really good time killer game. It's good like in between, like, oh, we finished this, but then we're going to break off into other stuff. But we got like, oh, we got a half an hour to kill. Okay, let's play a game of The Resistance. But it can go longer. You can play with like 10 people games. And you can do it like more like a 45-minute game. But what I love about this game is that you're laughing, you're joking, you're throwing accusations at somebody, you're trying to do some logic and reasoning, like, wait, if he was the spy, would he have done this because he allowed us to succeed? And somebody else will be like, no, he did that to gain your trust. And we're like, oh, and so, you know, so really, really fun, that style of game. I absolutely love games like that. They're just so much fun. I'm actually hoping to play some Werewolf at Dice Tower Con this year, and because I've never played a full game of Werewolf, and I want to try and do that, because that'll be fun. But yes, The Resistance is fun. It's got different variants too, and different expansions, so you can change it up a little bit more. But it's one of those games I always look forward to playing, and I want to keep playing. I like it. It's a game I could sit down and probably play like 5 times in a row and not get tired of. And I try to play it as often as possible. So I really, really like The Resistance. I just love social games. It's an excuse to get together and laugh with your friends or with complete strangers, and make them become your friends, or make them think you're paranoid. So I love it. Resistance at number 2. Number 1 is an extremely fun and crazy game that just about anything can happen in, and it's called Wiz War. Wiz War has been around for a long time. It's an older game that was remade by Fantasy Flight with a few new things, where it's got like double-sided boards. But the first time I played Wiz War is a time I'll never forget, because I was thinking, okay, this is just I'm just going to move around and try to capture the other person's treasure. And basically everybody plays a wizard, and everybody has their own kind of little maze on their own little board, and you push all the boards together, and you go through your maze, and you try to go into somebody else's maze and find their treasure, bring it back to your area, steal their treasure, or kill them. So there's multiple ways to win, and it's every man for himself, or every wizard for themselves. But there's all kinds of different spells. So every time you play the game, you're going to pick different schools of magic, and you bring them into the game. You shuffle these cards. Everybody gets like, oh, we went with necromancy this time, so I'm going to summon some skeletons to fight for me. But there's so many different types of spells, and so many of them do just all kinds of fun and different things. So there's, for example, you might, put a wall up somewhere, and that's that's a big deal in a game that's played in a maze, because putting a wall up might completely deny somebody access to where they're going. You might put a wall up maybe to defend your base. You might put a wall up to keep an enemy stuck in his base. You might put a wall up in front of somebody and trap them in a corner somewhere. You can do other weird things like pick up a whole board and move it 90 degrees and put it back down. And now all of a sudden that path that was going to lead me right into your base now leads me into a blank wall, and I have to go all the way back through the maze and come out on the other side again. You know, and there's all kinds of just shenanigans, extraordinary shenanigans that you can pull off in this game that just make it so much fun. And to me, this is the pinnacle of, I don't care if I'm going to lose, I'm going to do something amazingly cool. All right, this turn, boom, 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 you're now trapped, and it's going to take you probably like 3 or 4 turns trying to come up with some kind of way to get out of this wall. It's just, and I actually did that. That happened on my first time playing this game, when somebody taught me this game, and I was able to spin a board and then put a wall in and trap the guy who taught me this game. I trapped him in when he was trying to come into my area to steal my treasure, and he was so mad that he hunted me down the rest of the game, and he actually lost the game too, and he killed me, and then the third person who was playing with us won as a result of it. But so you can create fierce rivalries. You can you know, just have all kinds of very, very funny things happen in this game. And Wiz Wars, to me, it's not very heavy. Depending, and some of the expansions add extra rules and some things that you may have to look up, but at its core, it's pretty light. But it's just so much fun, and that's what gaming is about for me. It's about having fun. Gaming to me is not about winning. It's about having a lot of fun. Every game on this list you're going to have fun with. I think I have fun with, but especially Wiz War, and that's why it's my #1. So this has been my top 10 non-Star Wars board games. Let me know what you think, guys. Maybe you disagree with some of them, but or maybe you think there's other ones that should be on this list. There's certain ones that I think probably could be on the list, and maybe I just haven't played them yet. I have not played Blood Rage, for example. I definitely want to play that because it feels like a game that would totally be on my list. I haven't played Town of Salem yet, which is one that I actually got from Kickstarter, and it's like a werewolf style game that plays a little faster. You don't need quite so many people to play. That one might end up finding its way on my list, maybe replacing the Resistance. So there's a lot of stuff that I just simply haven't played yet. I haven't played Star Trek Ascendancy, and I've had that sitting up there for like 6 months now. I've had Star Trek or something like that. I've not played it once yet. And you know, a lot of that has to do with I just play X-Wing and Armada, and to a lesser extent Imperial Assault, but I've just been playing those games so much I've had a lot less time for regular board games lately. So that's about all she wrote. Well, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this and you want more videos from me, make sure you are subscribed and click the little bell for alerts. So you can get notified when I'm doing giveaways. I have a giveaway going right now for the Ray Speeder, so when I hit 8,000 subscribers, I will be announcing the winner of that. All you have to do to enter is subscribe and leave a comment on one of my videos. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.